This is LRBT2, main conclusion, question 18. So we've got a journalist, and they right out the gate say that if we've got a free marketplace of ideas, you're ensuring all ideas get a fair hearing. And then they go on and talk about, ideas tainted and then other countries and governments. We're just going to try to figure out like what is the purpose of each sentence. And if we can't figure out what each sentence is doing up front, we'll just go ahead and put it into context. What is being supported and what is doing the supporting? There's only going to be one main conclusion of the argument. Everything else is going to support that idea. So that first sentence, it seems like they're giving us an opinion. The journalist has an opinion, and it's laying the groundwork for what's going on in here. So if we have this free marketplace, you get fair hearing for your ideas. Even ideas tainted with prejudice and malice can prompt beneficial outcomes. So that seems like, they're giving us a framework. So this is either an opinion or a fact. We kind of just have to take what the journalist is saying as a fact so we understand what is their point. These ideas can both stand alone. So that's how we know it's probably not going to be our main conclusion right there. In most countries, however, the government is responsible for over half the information released to the public through all media. So that seems like it's a fact or some background information. For this reason, the power of governments over information needs to be curtailed. Now, here we're getting to something that doesn't really stand alone. The journalist says, the power of government should be curtailed. Everything else that's been said so far is either their theoretical framework or a fact, and this needs to be indicates the author's opinion, right? So we're going to be a little skeptical, and we can probably say, this looks like this could be the main conclusion. It's up to the journalist to prove why. Everyone grants that governments should not suppress free expression. So they're giving us a fact, or this could also be like representing the opinions of a different group of people. So they're saying this is what happens. Yet governments continue to construct near monopolies on the publication and dissemination of enormous amounts of information. Oh, lots of Asians there. So they're saying people agree, people have a shared opinion that you shouldn't suppress free expression, but governments are creating this monopoly on publications, and they are, if you read between the lines a little bit, they are suppressing free expression because they are controlling who publishes and distributes all of this information. So let's kind of just walk through. So it seems like it like really escalated here. The first two sentences give us this whole like marketplace of free ideas. There's this good flow and feeling. We got some facts from our journalist. That's our framework. And then they like apply it in the third sentence to most countries. And they said the government is responsible for over half the information released. Okay, so that's a fact. So we went from like really broad, just specifically applying it to most countries. So something abstract to something tangible. And then they say, we need to curtail the government's power of information, blah, 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 blah. And then they go ahead and explain why. So it looks like that middle, that piece in the middle, let me go ahead and draw it out here, little brackets for us here. Should I use pink? For this reason, the power of governments over information needs to be curtailed. That is going to be our conclusion of the journalist's argument. They're taking up our time because they want us to understand what's the background. Here's the framework. Here's what happens in most countries. Here's some paradox. Here's how I propose we solve it. The journalist had to set all of that up so we could get the point, which is we need to control government's control of information. So we're going to look for something that reflects this as our conclusion in the argument. A, the freedom of the marketplace of ideas is in jeopardy. Well, certainly sounds like it. But we get to be really, really specific with what the journal is actually saying. Our conclusion is that the power needs to be curtailed. We need a little bit more information to know that this is in jeopardy. We're going to do, like for us to get that the marketplace of ideas is in jeopardy, we have to say something along the lines of, if we do not curtail the power of governments, then the marketplace of ideas is in jeopardy. Like we need something very specific. We could get A if we are totally, just kind of jumping and making some assumptions. We're not there yet. We're going to go exactly with what's on the page. The key to these main conclusion questions is that the answer is on your page, even if they just reframe it. B, preserving a free marketplace of ideas is important. Well, I mean, we could kind of get that from, again, between the lines, because if our journalist is taking the time to say, hey, we need to curtail this, well, we wouldn't curtail a government if it wasn't important. But just like with A, we need something that's going to specifically say that it's important to preserve a free marketplace of ideas. Since it doesn't explicitly say that, and our conclusion is just talking about curtailing the government, we have to mark out B. C, the control that governments have over information needs to be reduced. Now, this is looking really compelling, and so people probably wouldn't pick this if you don't know what curtail means, but that's okay. If you don't know what it means, don't cross it out. We just kind of skip it and come back, and we're going to revisit this really, really quickly. So if you're not a big vocabulary person, let's hold on real quick. D, ideas that have malicious content or stem from questionable sources can be valuable. I don't know if we're talking about malicious content here or questionable sources. We're not trying to argue that something is valuable. Again, our argument is about we need to, stop the government from having so much information, power, control. E, governments have near monopolies on the dissemination of many kinds of information. So people will pick this because it looks really nice, it's comfortable, it's already stated in the passage, but that's exactly the problem with it. This is just a statement. It's just a piece of information that the journalist is using to prove their point. So let's revisit C. So if we don't know what curtailed means, let's say we read this, we're like, okay, for this reason, the power of governments over information needs to be curtailed. So we can get the sense if we just kind of scroll, like zoom out, our journalist wants us to do something. They say we need to do something about the power of governments of information. It needs something. We need to take some kind of action. We don't know if that needs to be encouraged. We don't know if it needs to be stopped. We have no idea if it's a positive or negative thing, but we get our journalist's bottom line is that something needs to happen about the power of government. Something we can also use if we're really unsure of what curtailed means and it's throwing us off this whole sentence. Oh, I don't need that. A quick way to pick this sentence out as the main conclusion is this indicator. For this reason, hence, therefore, because of these ideas, we know we can conclude XYZ. We love this indicator. We want to be careful it's not 100% foolproof, but this indicates that we've got some kind of claim, either an intermediary claim or the main conclusion. Since there's no other conclusions going on in this argument, let's say if we don't know curtailed, but we saw that for this reason, we could get, hey, this is our main conclusion right here. And then, we could also match it up to what C looks like, the control that governments have over information. We know, even if we don't know what curtailed means, we know that our conclusion is about government power over information. That's going to be enough to get us to C. And we just want to be really specific about what our answer choices are talking about. So that's why we would pick C rather than another answer choice.